You do. On me, I'm just going to have two screens open. So if anybody tunes in, then they could just start asking questions. But it's got
Oh, fun.
a delay. So
I didn't hear the last part. What?
it has like a minute delay.
Oh, okay. So you're in Zoom, but Zoom supports this?
Yeah.
That's unbelievably cool.
Yeah. So right now we're live on YouTube.
What is up, everybody on YouTube? This is our
Yeah.
first time. So get ready for a lot of mistakes, but a lot of love.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you guys are going to see the entire process today of how we produce an episode. So
Yep,
the thoughts and all the backstory. So,
I love it. Well, the new series that we're working on that you guys are going to get to see the behind the scenes of is collaboration to get work done.
yeah.
And I was telling Beast Mode that I have a personal stake in this, and the personal stake is a weakness. So, do you mind if I kind of tell that story?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So, the story is that over time in my career, I started to see that people were letting me down. There were several things that I ran into. Number one, people were letting me down, and I'm kind of a high responsibility person by nature, and that's a strength. I have weaknesses too. But I saw that people were letting me down. They weren't following up. They weren't replying to messages. I started copying myself on my own messages when I would ask somebody something. I would copy myself because I expected a third of the time people would not go do whatever I asked them to do, or you know what I mean. So I had to have some way of tracking it. So that's kind of you're seeing in my behavior high responsibility, people letting me down. Okay. So I started seeing that trend. And then also, as I would work with other departments, for example, I was in sales, so I'd work with marketing, and sometimes I would get flack from marketing, or they would try to veto something, even though it didn't affect them. And I found that my efforts to collaborate were causing pain, and either pain or they were causing me to get, a no answer, or it was slower to collaborate. So all those behaviors led to later in my career, I was a minimal collaborator. Now, and I would call that a lone wolf, and maybe you're a lone wolf. But we're going to make the case during this series that it is better to pay the tax of collaboration. So I'll tell you what I did in my last company. Actually, you know what? This is actually not a bad place for me to pause. So, Beast Mode, do you have any thoughts so far before I? So I've kind of given you the bad story. So in a
Yeah.
minute, I'll explain how I've begun to work on this problem. But do you have
Okay.
anything to insert in the middle?
Yeah. Well, whenever you tell that on the podcast, like the actual podcast that we're going to record, because we're not
Yep.
recording that right now,
Okay.
you're probably going to have to shorten that or
Okay.
just or move through it a little bit quicker.
Okay.
Uh, One of my thoughts is, and it's just the truly honest, and there's no negative feelings or anything, but we all hate having a boss like that who is just over the top but's not involved and not collaborating or won't accept our collaboration. We see a problem, we want to be a part of the solution. Hey, I got an idea now, we're here. And so that's where businesses, I mean, I know that's a big kick nowadays is empathy and things like that, but it really does come across, it's lack of collaboration, lack of involvement in other people. Um, and so, I mean,
Yeah.
before it's empathy, it's collaboration, you know?
Yeah. Well, I agree with that. I would say that my regular employees didn't experience this very much because I'm a high enablement person too.
Yeah.
But it's more the external departments that I didn't collaborate with than it was my people. So my people did have pretty strong contact from me. So I should
Yeah.
clarify that. But like working with marketing, working with product, working with
Yeah.
exec staff, working with what at PR, working with operations, I tended to not want to share because frankly, I didn't want people who could tell me no, who had no consequences from telling me no, to slow down our business or to hurt us. And so, but yeah, my reps didn't really experience that because I was very much, people would always say I was a very supportive manager. But yeah, so that's one step is like, so that's the bad story. That's why Howie became a lone wolf. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what happened in my last company to turn that around, but I started to collaborate. Part of it was I had a peer who I liked and who trusted. He could be a little bit raw sometimes, but he was always honest, and he had a good heart. So it was okay that he was occasionally a little bit rough around the edges, you know?
Yeah.
So I started to collaborate with him. And also he appreciated what I was trying to do, by the way. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
also had that benefit. So I started to collaborate with him on some of our sales process. I started to, I mean, I would say that was a pretty big one, is
Yeah.
that individual, that experience. So anyway, so I would say picking a person to trust and do a trial is one thing that I did. You know what I mean? So you can't, okay. If
I
you go to
think
a counselor, they would
before
tell you,
you
don't
try
try.
I
What's
think
that?
before you try to be a collaborator leading the collaboration, you should be collaborated.
What does that mean?
So before I'm seeking out somebody to collaborate with me, before, like, if somebody's in a state where they haven't collaborated, they're more of a lone wolf at the moment, before they should seek out to do that, they should seek to be offering to be collaborated with. Does that make sense?
So
So
basically, if the other side doesn't even want to collaborate, then that may not be the right person to start with.
yeah, kind of. I guess it's more of the, if I'm having trouble collaborating, then I probably don't need to lead a collaborating effort. I probably need to be the one being the collaborated. That's probably not a real word, but I think you get what I'm saying. You know, I need to be the one who's being sought after to fill a need and to be part
Okay.
of it, versus being, hey, I have an issue, I have a goal, I have something I need you to fit. Because what's going to happen is, if I'm having issues and you're not meeting that need, then my first response is going to have you be removed, or just distance myself, or, make it difficult, when I probably need to learn how to just work in this team environment, work in, a one or two group or something like that. That makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. I think I was blessed that I had somebody who was open to collaboration, and
yeah.
I was kind of forced to collaborate with them because of the fact that they were in a support role to my sales team. So it was nice to be forced to do that. Um, I would say so. The phase one for me of improving that, and I am not there yet because I do prefer to work alone a lot,
Yeah.
uh, to be honest.
But you're a
But
one, right?
what's that? I'm a
You're
one,
an
yeah.
Yeah.
Enneagram one. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of built in,
Yeah.
you know. But
Yeah.
it's similar though to me as an Enneagram 8. I'm not empathetic, but I got to put like the empathetic roadblocks in my life. I force them in there,
Yeah, you
and
do.
and it's because I know that if I'm not empathetic, then I'm going the unhealthy way, and so I force it in there. I mean, to the point to where started a nonprofit, and I put that, almost first, you know and so it may be to the point to where you got to do that. You got to make it uncomfortable, and then you know it just kind of is what it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think
This is really good, by the way.
really
Yeah, I
good.
think so. I think we need to hammer out 3 or 4 bullet points and start podcasting before,
Yeah. Okay.
because I think all of this was already podcastable.
I know.
And so,
I know. And I like the honesty of it because we're searchers. We're searchers, you
yeah.
know? Like
And learn.
we love business and we love people, but we're flawed.
Mm.
We have been hurt. We have made mistakes. We've had failures.
Yeah.
But we're pressing on and we're trying to use grit and creativity and also community to make it through and to find a way and to be a pioneer and to be a farmer, and it's
Mm.
hard and it's sweaty and there's thorns. But I think that's why the podcast sometimes borders on being pretty good. And I know I'm being a little humble for us right there. So I don't think every minute's good, but I think we have occasional moments that are pretty great when we are truly speaking the truth from experience and we're searching. And I think the audience, when they search with us, I
Yeah.
think that's something. It's about finding your tribe.
Yeah.
So I think we talked about that early on. One of my favorite topics. All right, so I agree with you. Let's spitball some topics. So we'll start off with the bad story, why Howie was a lone wolf. I'll try to shorten it up. The
Kind of list off a couple of things.
kind
So
of
we're
like
gonna,
the why.
yeah, well, we're gonna give the title,
Yeah.
and then talk. This is what we're gonna try to cover in this series.
Yeah. Okay.
And we're just gonna see where today goes. And
Yeah.
we're gonna have bullet points, but have a little bit of a heading before we just jump into story time.
Okay. So let's come up with a heading. Let's talk about what the series might look like. Not that we
Yeah.
have to contain this.
No.
Let's talk about the why. I mean, everybody wants to know the why, so I love that. Let's why collaborate.
Yeah.
What does that look like? You know what I mean? I was,
And I think that why
Let me share my
is
screen. Do you mind?
no, I don't mind.
Okay.
Let me get back.
Do we have any viewers on YouTube yet?
Uh,
Can you even tell?
I don't know how to tell. Nobody's commented, but
Hey, if anybody's there, will you just comment so we know you're there?
hello. So whoever the one is, that's it.
We actually do have a one. What's
That's
up? Cool. So this is a behind the scenes podcast building session with Howie Beastmode is kind of how we're doing this YouTube live. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen now. The new series that we're building is collaboration to get work done. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about, certain things about collaboration. Why collaborate? What does that look like? That's one thing, right? How about when to use collab? This could be the same episode. When to use collaboration.
Yeah,
Right?
I almost said that why collaborate and what does it look like. I almost think that's going to encompass the entire time. I just have a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yep. So are you thinking this is episode 1 of that first bullet there?
Yeah,
Okay.
I
And
think
then
there's under why and what.
do you think maybe that the when, do you think that's all one, or do you think that'll end up being longer?
No, I do. Just offhand, I think when is different because when can be specific to projects or types of business or.
So let's keep a loose list
Okay.
and we'll just see how it flows, but we'll keep these in mind.
Yeah.
So why collaborate is good, why and probably, what are similar, or they're nice related questions. I mean, obviously we should show them good collaboration. What is good collaboration techniques? And you and I can do some personal searching and personal sharing, and maybe we'll even do a little bit of research on best practices that people are using out there, because it's not like we're the end all be all. We just have a certain amount of subset that we've experienced.
Yeah.
But good collaboration is outstanding. What's great is, I think you know where I'm going to go with this. Feedback is actually pretty complementary to this process, which is one of our classical topics we talk about a lot. What are some other things, Beast Mode, that would be good for the series, whether it's a 2-week, 3-week, whatever? Any more things where's your curiosity taking you here?
I think I think we need to be completely authentic and say the positives and negatives of collaboration. It really struck home before we went live,
Oh,
and there's a lot of negatives. There's potential
negatives.
somebody can rip your heart out because you decided to collaborate. You know,
Yeah, good one. Handling negative collaboration. Yep. That's a natural one to I've had a lot of that. Just to let you know, I've had a lot of that, man. I know you have too, but I think
yeah.
we'll have good ammo there. And listen, guys, for whoever's listening to the prep show here, we we're still figuring this out. I know that's almost every podcast host says that, but that is true in our case as well.
I don't necessarily think though the negative collaboration, because I think a lot of people like off the cuff, if they see handling negative collaboration, it's almost like how do I get out of it? And I don't necessarily think that that's the case. Sometimes you still have to collaborate,
Yeah,
whatever your calls for collaboration, even if it's negative, you got to deal with it, and you got to keep on going,
yeah, you
and
do.
not, you know.
Yep. Negativity. Um, I don't know when this is, but I would say how to start would be one. And some of
Yeah,
these we could bucketize these, of course.
yeah,
How to start would be one. Is that enough for now? And then we can add later?
yeah,
Kind of a roadmap.
yeah,
All right. So we're planning. So tonight we have to record. We're going to record two actually.
yeah. We have to.
So, um,
I got a
so
time. So I'm gonna keep us under 25 per
good.
episode,
Yeah,
which
that's
means
good. Yeah, because I get tired. Two's hard because I put a lot of, especially as an introvert, I kind of, and maybe everybody's this way, so I'm asking for sympathy. But two does kind of wear me out. So yeah, shorter is nice. Maybe I'll get used to it eventually though. So why collaborate and what does that look like? It kind of makes sense for us to start there tonight.
yeah.
And if we have time to cover when, fine. Do you want me to email this to you or how do you want to capture this so we can kind of have,
Well, the
you
first
know,
episode, why and what, and then after, if we get into when, fine. Then we'll take like a 2 or 3 minute break and
yeah,
then read what we're gonna get to the next episode.
yep. Change shirts.
I don't think
Change.
I'm gonna change,
Okay. I'm going to
but
change into something else.
well, I could probably throw
I'm
something
also
on.
going to show my Star Wars droid because I have to show my droid.
You need to do that.
It's pretty cool. I want to show you. I want to let Hunter play with it. Um,
That
it's got
sounds.
like a remote. No, it's really cool. It was a gift, actually. It's an unbelievably expensive gift that I got from my brother-in-law. I cannot believe it's like the best gift I've ever had in my life. It's the best gift. So I may show it to you actually here on video, even for fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to bulletize? Okay, what if I do this? I'm gonna copy these two down here.
Probably send it in the chat.
I'm gonna put it in the chat. That's a good idea.
Yeah. That way you
So
don't have to try to email it.
title is, why collaborate or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
And what does it look like? Okay. And then possibly, you like my spelling talent there? All right. Bad story. Why Howie was a lone wolf. Beast mode comments. And then good. And then we kind of wrapped a little bit about picking a person to trust and do a trial. And you had some other comments that I can't remember, but I'll give you a space for that. And then I need to at some point cover, you know, a couple examples of good collaboration from my last company, because you want to have a good story.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like you have good collaboration um, in your nonprofit as well. It varies, of course, but you have some good collaboration, and then you have some challenges like everybody does.
Collaborate,
Um,
grace.
What?
Collaboration takes grace. Successful collaboration takes grace.
Well, you should say that.
You know, it just does. You can't be successful without grace.
I think it takes grace. And then I'm listening right now to this guy, Ray Dalio, who is the CEO of Bridgewater Capital, I believe is the name. It's a hedge fund. And he's kind of hot right now. And he's talking a lot about radical transparency. He's talking about having rules for relationships. And there's ground rules for how you work. For even if there's conflict, there's ground rules. And so you kind of want to have written ground rules of, if we disagree, here is the path. Here's the operating system for collaboration. And so having written rules. So I think part of it's grace and part of it is having ground rules. And if you guys who are listening, or if us on the nonprofit or my business or whatever, if we don't have ground rules, it's a good idea to have ground rules.
Yeah.
You know. So I'd say grace and ground rules.
You're still gonna have to have grace. Those ground rules are gonna get tested. They're gonna get the limits.
It's absolutely true. Yep.
Somebody crosses one of the ground rules, crosses a limit, but they're a key contributor. What are you gonna do? You gotta have grace.
Yep, I agree.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna put these in chat for now, and then we can wrap on the episode 1. Did you say? Okay. How bad is that? Can you see that? Okay.
Yeah, it's good.
It's actually not bad, is it?
No.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Like it.
That was fun. Well, I think it's a really critical topic. It's funny. This is a funny thing to say. It's kind of endearing that we're not great at this topic, because we're kind of good at social media and sales and other stuff. It's funny to be working on one that we're not great at.
Yeah.
And yeah. Okay. So I am ready to record. If you are, and we should also do a couple of little mini things at some point.
Yeah.
So tell me how you want to do those.
Yeah. Well, we'll do those.
Okay.
But I'm ready.
All right. Are we going to wrap?
Yeah.
Okay. What is going on, Beast Mode?
Well, not a whole lot. Happy New Year to you, Howie. What did you end up doing for the New Year's?
So happy New Year to you as well, and family. We ended up going, so my kids didn't get any presents, and I mean like practically zero. They actually had nothing to open on Christmas. But we did kind of a budget friendly trip to Disney World. And so it was a really good time with the kids, and we split a rental. A good way to go to Disney World, if you guys ever want to know this, is if you rent a house, they can be quite affordable. And what we do is we go with a family, and so we split the already affordable house. So it was really a neat time with that extended family and my kids and my wife. So yeah, thanks for asking. It was a good little New Year. What about you? Did you do anything on New Year?
I did. The nonprofit that I help. I want to say lead, but I'm not. I don't know if I'm the leader. I'm just somebody who's trying to do the most good.
You are the leader.
But clean up. We actually purchased our first RV New Year's Eve, and I was in the community in Dallas. Our nonprofit provides mobile services to the community: showers, mani-pedis, haircuts, things of that nature. And so we were giving showers on New Year's Eve in Dallas as fireworks were going off. So it was pretty incredible. But all of that leads us into, especially your story, on sharing a house, on collaboration. And so what are we going to be talking about?
Yeah. Well, it's a new series called Collaborating to Get Work Done. It'll probably be 2 or 3 or 4 episodes. And it's an unusual one where we often speak about something that we're good at. This is one where we're really still emerging. I would actually say that I was bad at this until 3 years ago, and I'm still working on this. So collaboration to get work done. And tonight it's why collaborate and what does that look like is the title for tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. Collaboration is pretty key. I was just kind of thinking as we were getting ready to start recording this after our prep, and it's hard to get through any day without collaborating in some capacity, whether it's, if you're married, you're collaborating with a spouse. If you're at work, generally you're collaborating somewhere across the board. If you're out on vacation, there's always somewhere where you're having to give and take, or you're having to coexist. And so I'm hoping and I'm thinking that the avenues, the channels that this is going to go is going to be pretty vast. So excited for that.
Yeah, and we don't get preaching on this channel, but I will say that there's a couple of biblical examples. And if you guys if you guys get triggered by just mentioning the word Bible, then you really don't need to be, because this is not a conversion conversation we're having here. Although I would love it if you would follow Christ, because it will change your life. But no, what I'm about to comment on is just a couple of business principles that are in the Bible. One of them talks about how if one falls down, the other is able to help him, and that a threefold cord cannot easily be broken. So it talks about the strength of us together versus alone. So true. And then iron sharpens iron is another one that talks about collaboration and how, yeah, there's friction from that. But iron sharpens iron means we both get sharper from that, even though there's friction. And there's also a New Testament injunction that talks about in Hebrews that talks about do not forsake the assembling of yourselves together. There's something about that community and that collaboration where we really are better together. And humans have a need for community and a need for togetherness. So if we are operating without collaboration, we're missing something. And this is coming from a place of honesty, because this is my worst thing until 3 years ago, and it's still a work in progress.
I can't believe you forgot my favorite one. The two are better than one, for they have good return for their labor.
There you go. It's all over the place. I mean, if ancient, here's what you guys have to think about. If ancient scriptures, figured this sucker out, then we better learn from people who learned the hard way, and who documented some really good principles for us, to help us avoid that problem.
So I know that we got a story to get into. Do we want to delve into the why and the what first, or
I kind of do? Yeah, I like how you, because in our bullets, we always bulletize this, guys, before the show. We actually forgot to bulletize the why and the what, and we have the. So I'm glad you rescued us by starting to talk about the why and the what a little bit. So yeah, let's wrap a little bit more about that. I mean, the why we talked about a little bit as far as the support aspect, the fellowship aspect. I think another reason why is that I feel like I have a pretty good amount of experience in business and in whatever. And yet I'm always just like blown away when I'm talking to somebody and there's a wrinkle that I just never thought of. And that's kind of like the idea side of it, the feedback side of it. But then there's also, I could be wrong. I could be just missing out on something. And so if I fail to collaborate sometimes for good reasons, listen, none of you guys have to feel bad about that, because I'm the worst collaborator. But if I fail to collaborate, then what if I'm wrong, right? I need someone to tell me I'm wrong. And so you can wrap a little bit more with that. But that's a couple of ideas on the why.
Yeah, I think the first why that comes to my mind is, again, kind of what I was sharing earlier, the necessity. I don't know what, actually I do. I don't know what if I'm healthy, spiritually, emotionally, I don't know what a healthy day looks like that I'm not collaborating. I know what unhealthy days are, because I did that for a long time, just like.
Are you saying, can I ask you a clarified question?
Yeah.
Are you saying that for you, it is kind of oxygen, like you do prefer to collaborate?
No, I mean, not, because sometimes I'm an Enneagram 8. And so sometimes whenever it's go time, if there's any bit of pushback, my initial response is to cut the fat and still go. Like, I said go and you're not moving. So you're either, and so in my mind, it's, are you for me or against me? I'm going to make the decision and then I'm going to go without you. That's my go-to. But
Okay.
at a more basic level, kind of what I was getting at is there's a necessity to collaborate, all day long. You have to, when you go in the grocery store, you got to collaborate. When you're getting a coffee or whatever, you're collaborating all day long. And so that's where I'm talking about, to where that's kind of a why do I need to consider it? Why do I need to work at it to get better? Because I don't know a day where I can't get by without it. Especially, again, like I was saying, if I'm healthy, if I'm spiritually, emotionally healthy, then I should be collaborating. Again, we just gave 3 pretty good examples out of scripture where it tells us we need to do things together. And again, it's even more scripture talks about it's not good for man to be alone, And so we're not, even if we're good working alone, there's still checks and balances. And then I guess kind of to piggyback off of what you're saying, is that blind spot checker. That's a huge why that I know I overlooked for a long time, is receiving that collaboration, about, hey, you're missing this. Did you know that?
I think there's many different kinds of people who kind of are a little bit reluctant to collaborate. I think highly capable people or highly experienced people, those kinds of people might be reluctant to collaborate because they don't realize the need. I think another kind of person who doesn't want to collaborate is someone who's carrying some baggage and some hurts. Obviously, understandable, of course. What are some other kinds of profiles? Not that you have to have an answer, but do you have any other thoughts of people that might be a little reluctant to collaborate?
Well, a lot of leaders are reluctant to collaborate. And we kind of talked about this in our prep. And a lot of it is they're reluctant to collaborate. They want to pass down, but there's no up. And so that's not collaboration. If all you're doing is barking orders, you're not collaborating. And again, because they're afraid of negative feedback, they're afraid that if somebody else collaborates, then they're going to steal glory or steal thunder or steal, resources. And so I think that's a big deal, especially the way social right now. You want to have your face on it. You want to have your business on it. And that's a lot of, I think that is really beating down collaboration efforts,
People want credit, for whatever reason. So sometimes there's some truly negative reasons for not collaboration. Another one of them is that for the introverts out there, it might be a little more work for you. I mean, I'm an introvert too, and it's a little bit more work for me to have someone over to my house even, or to do a podcast. It's a little bit of, you take from your reserves when you're an introvert to do, public things. Even though you like I like people, but I do have that in my nature. Even though I do like people. So if you're an introvert, there might be a little bit of that. You might have to use discipline to collaborate a little bit more. And there's probably, you guys may have your own reasons. And then some of the people that like to collaborate are probably extroverts, I would say. I would say truly secure people, very secure people, probably would like to collaborate, and or just very wise people who are not overly, I mean, I'll just leave it to that. Very wise people, and also extroverts, and also very secure people probably are collaborators, I would say. Maybe sometimes younger people who kind of have to because they don't know what to do, they might be a good candidate for natural collaboration.
Yeah. Man, I'm having a thought come up in my mind, and it's about blame. And and I don't know if it's a positive or negative, or if it goes into the why, but it's been there the entire time on your last point. But when you're collaborating, there is the opportunity to blame shift. you know. But so that's kind of the opposite of the credit. You know, if I'm solo and it's successful, then I receive all the credit, but I also receive all the negative downfalls. So that may be a reason why people choose to collaborate. Something goes wrong, it's your fault. You know.
Okay.
You know.
Well, actually, and there's a positive upside to what you just said. So I had one of my, I would say I have, you know, inactive and I have active mentors and I have inactive mentors, but my inactive mentors, I may not have talked to them very much in the last 12 months, but they have this historical impact on me because they said things or whatever, you know what I mean? So one of my kind of a little bit more inactive mentors, Steve, said, you know, two things that were pretty important. One of them was, you might have bad news, but bring me the transparent truth and we'll work it out together. Don't hide bad news from me. Share bad news with me. So it's kind of a little bit of a collaboration on the negative when something is negative. And then I think it's him also that said, if we win, let's win together. And if we lose, let's lose together. In other words, like, don't go try to do it yourself with no help and lose. If we're going to lose, let's at least try to help each other to win. And then if we lose together. And so there's that community and there's that fellowship and there's the shared learning of that if we will force some collaboration. You know, there's a tax. I mean, it takes more time and there's risk to it and there's negativity that sometimes happens out of, you know, but we're just giving you guys the why collaborate in business and in your career and what does that look like?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's very true. You know, when you're collaborating and everything's going well, you know, then you share the credit and you lift each other up. When you're collaborating, things don't go well, you're there to pick each other up. You know, if you're by yourself, you don't have that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think we've all been there. We've all gone down and done an effort on our own, thinking we had the best interest, the best idea, the best whatever, and it didn't work. And we were the only ones there. And picking yourself up is a lot more difficult than it is to have somebody lend a hand. You know, more time. You know, there's a lot of energy on the back end if you fall down and you're by yourself versus the energy on the front end to collaborate. So that's the why. Why don't you jump into your story and then we'll talk about the what. You know, we got about halfway
All
through
right.
this.
Yeah, no, it's great. I like it. So, and we'll get into more of the why and what as we go. But I do want to tell the story. So when early on in my career, I was essentially getting disappointed a lot by people. I was noticing that people were not following up. I was having to copy myself on emails because people weren't replying and responding. People weren't doing the work. And I have, you know, my strength finders, my number one strength is responsibility. So I have a very emotional attachment to responsibility, a very mental attachment to it, psychological ownership. And so I found myself being the to-do list and the reminder system for other people. And so it became easier over time to kind of like not collaborate, right? So that was kind of one reason why I stopped collaborating earlier in my career. Another reason why is I would try to go collaborate with another department, whether that would be marketing or product or services or executive management or finance or whatever, sales operations, because I've always been in sales. And I would find that I would have a legitimate need, and I'm the closest to the actual situation because I'm working directly with the customer, my team and I were, and people would shut me down on something that I had to have or the customer had to have, and I had, you know, sometimes no recourse. So basically there was a risk if I collaborated, I would be shut down and it would hurt our business. And so it was like this disincentive, it was a risk. There was very little I got out of collaborating, right? And there was people shutting us down and negativity and all kinds of stuff. So I stopped collaborating, you know, for the most part, unless I had to. By the way, it doesn't mean I was unfriendly. I've always kind of been the friendly person, but I was just friendly and a lone wolf as well. Now, it doesn't mean my sales team wasn't getting supported. It just meant that I wasn't collaborating with other departments. But I was very, very active with my individual team and my team members. So that's the reason why. But in my last company, I started to collaborate, and I started by picking. And by the way, I didn't say one day, hey, I'm going to become a collaborator. I did not do that. But I started working with Brett in the last company that I worked for. He was now one of my best friends. And he could be a little bit he could be critical, but he had a good heart. So you always knew, even if he was being critical, he's just trying to get the job done. Even if he had a bad day, you knew he had this good heart. You know, you've met people like that in your life where you could trust them, even if occasionally you didn't agree or whatever. So I began to collaborate with him on a couple of projects. I began to collaborate with him on some sales deals, and I felt a level of support, and also I got value out of it because he was smart and he had experience that I didn't have. And so it kind of broke the ice for me. So I started to try to collaborate with other departments, and working through that process to where I am today, where I'm more, I would call it, I'm still very individual developer of business, but I'm more open and try to be more collaborative, which is why this is top of mind right now in this series, because it's something I aspire to and Beast Mode aspires to. So that's what I did. I picked one person. I didn't boil the ocean. I picked one person and,
Yeah.
and a couple of projects to go try to collaborate on.
Was Brett more of the lead of your collaboration efforts, or were you more of the lead?
So Brett ran the technical services team over at IntelliMagic. He's still there to this day. And because the services team was a service organization that worked with sales, they would do our demos and stuff, our software demos.
Yeah.
I was it necessitated that we work together as department heads. Like I was over sales, he was over technical. And so he was, I, I would say the situation was kind of the initiator more than maybe he was. But he was open to it. I would go in there and we'd collaborate on ideas and problems, uh, and even huge, really business impacting processes. And he was there with me every step of the way, and didn't always agree, but we agreed 80% of the time because we were both pretty close to the customer situation. And so, yeah, it was a great ice breaking for me. Also, it taught me that you can have disagreements and you can even be a little frustrated with the other person and still collaborate and work through that. And so that was nice too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I know that was a topic that I had mentioned earlier. Maybe this is where I'll drop the line that collaboration takes grace. It takes a lot of grace. And if you are going to collaborate, you guys got to be willing to understand that it's a lot of it's more work than if you did it by yourself, you know. In some aspects of it, the mental work, the checking in, the follow-ups, the receiving input or feedback, the understanding that your ideas may not be the best. You know, all that, you know, it takes grace. It takes grace to operate in that environment. And so, I mean,
And he had grace, within the first 3 weeks of being on the job, my sales team made a mistake and messed something up. And I went into his office to apologize. And he literally, it's funny that you're using this wording here because he goes, there's grace. And I was like, I have never heard that in business before. That's not really a business kind of term for a lot of people, but I think it's a really good description for what is
yep.
needed. And so I agree with you. And I had someone give me grace. And then last January, let's see, actually it was January 2020. So just a year ago, his sales team blew it on a demo and cost me a deal that I had worked on for probably 4.5 months.
Come on, Brett.
Yeah. And he was, apologetic, and they tried to fix it and try to communicate with the customer, and we never got him back. But I gave them grace. In fact, I went back to that sales engineer twice because I had forgot that I already said something nice to him to make him feel better. I actually went back to, he goes, yeah, you already told me. I was like, oh, okay. But I let him off the hook 2 times to his staff member, to make sure that we were okay. Cause I want to make sure I'm giving grace in that relationship as well.
Yeah. And so, and we spend a lot of time on why. I'm not even sure how much we're going to get to spend on what in this podcast. Sure, we've already talked a lot about what it is, what it looks like, and so we're going to be moving into the wins and the hows and the negative aspect of collaboration. But do you have any just kind of closing thoughts for why?
Yeah, I do. I think, what I've learned in my business career, and also working with a couple of nonprofits now, actually, is that the starting is what you have to do, is that you have to get started. So find something to collaborate on. If you don't find in your business career or in your ministry career, whatever you do, if you do find that you're not collaborating, then pick a topic and go ask for help. It's kind of like it drops people's guard if you're asking for help. You know what I mean? You're not saying you have all the answers, you're asking for help. It's kind of flattering to them as well. It's good relationship builder with that person. So ask for help. And so I think that's something I would leave with people, is that number one, start your collaboration by just starting, try it, right? And number two, pick a person and ask for help on some topic. And, you'll get in the habit of, you'll find, you'll have to work through the nuances of what works and what doesn't. But you have to start by starting.
Yeah. Yeah. A good way, in my mind, as I'm thinking, to start collaborating is to serve. I think we'll kind of get into my thoughts on the collaborator versus collaborated idea. But I think one of the best ways in business, out of business, if you want to learn and to grow your collaboration skills, just start serving. In business, give away your product, give away your service. I mean, you have to do the whole thing, but give a free trial. That'll make you collaborate. Give a 30-minute phone conversation. That'll make you collaborate with no sales at the end. I'm just giving you 30 minutes. Outside of business, find some way to serve, to volunteer, to give back. You'll be in a good collaboration time. So I think that's going to wrap up this first episode of our collaboration series. I'm excited for it. We're also excited because we are running YouTube live right now, so you can comment live as we're podcasting, and so we're excited for that and what 2021 is going to happen. But
what time, if people want to join the YouTube live, first of all, they have to subscribe, and probably there's I think there's a notification. Yeah, there's a notification thing. You have to click like a bell. But what time of the week, what day and what time will that be happening?
Yeah, we always generally podcast Tuesdays, and it's towards the end of the day after 5 p.m. on Central Time. So if you're listening around the globe, you just got to tune into Central Time and look for after the working day. Generally, Howie and Beastmode will be chatting about something. I'm looking forward to that, getting some real-time thoughts as we're going. So
good stuff. Also, if you guys have any comments or questions or ideas for the show, anything you want us to cover, or just a personal question for us, or collaboration you want to try, whatever, email us at our show email, which is Howie and just the word A-N-D and Beastmode, Howie and Beastmode at gmail.com. And we check that occasionally, and we'll get back to you. And definitely feel free to hit us up with questions or whatever you want.
All right, Howie. I'll see you next week, my man.
See you guys.
All right. I need to plug my computer in, and then we can get going.
Okay. Are we still live on YouTube right now?
Yeah, we're live on YouTube.
Okay. What's up, guys? We're taking a break, guys. See you in a minute.
You need to move your robot. Maybe that's what you'll do. Instead of changing your shirt, put your robot up there. What's up, YouTube? We're getting ready to jump back in this. We got one more episode. We are gonna hash out. We're probably gonna cover the what's, maybe the wins. What does it look like to collaborate? When to use collaboration? There's a lot of times when collaboration is not needed. So being able to identify circumstances, and sometimes that's a risk. That's a risk in itself. It's not collaborating. This particular action or plan or idea does not need that. It just needs to go. So we're waiting for Howie to get back. He's taking a short break. Then we're going to jump right into it.
What is up? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? What's up, everybody? Hope you're doing good. We are doing our backstage right now, which is our show prep for the podcast. So you are in on the little backstage pass here.
What happened?
I'm just telling everybody what's going on.
Sorry, I got booted out.
Okay.
Oh.
Sorry about that.
I'd gotten booted out for a second.
But you are back.
It is what it is.
Okay, well, we are live on YouTube. We are working on part 2. We're doing 2 podcasts tonight. So we're doing our second in the series of collaboration to get work done. And we're going to talk about when to use collaboration, I guess.
Yeah, I'm thinking that we may need to, in the process of doing the when, we may further clarify the what.
Okay, yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does.
So we're already rolling into episode. Yeah.
What's
Well,
that?
I just assume we're already rolling.
Oh, are we
We're
rolling
doing
right now?
so good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what is going on, Beast Mode?
Man, it's just an exciting night. We got so much. I'm so excited to talk about collaboration. It feels like it's been so long since we chatted about it, but I know that there's so much. This may be a 10-part series just because of how much there is to talk.
Yeah, it's funny. We talked last week about how it's kind of not our biggest strength. Collaboration in business is not our biggest strength. We tend to be independent. And so we're trying to interrupt our own process and, focus on something that is really important. So hopefully everybody got to listen to last week. If not, go check it out. Also, that's my droid. Do you see my new droid there?
I do.
Like that? You like that?
Is that the one from the new movies?
It's kind of a classic. Let's see if I can get it to do anything here. I can't.
Fall off. That'll be sad.
Yeah, I don't want it to do that. I think I turned it off. I think it's just
for those listening to the audio podcast, we'll do better. But
we have a red and white Star Wars droid behind me. It's kind of an old school looking series. So yeah, it's a fun new thing that I got for my birthday actually. From my brother-in-law. Very cool Star Wars present.
Yeah.
But and if you only listen to us on the audio podcast, then just be aware we are on video on YouTube as well. But I get it. I mean, podcasts are so handy. You can listen to them when you're driving and doing anything. That's how I listen to them mostly as well. So good stuff. So yeah, you want to cover a little bit of the what, and then we'll dig into a little bit of the when.
I think the when's going to help us clarify the what.
Okay.
That's the way it's coming across in my mind right now.
Okay. Well, we can just share. I think the when will really help people kind of bring it home as far as some ideas for how to collaborate. We talked a little bit last week about some of the reasons for collaboration in terms of, we're stronger together. We have a kind of like a firewall to protect us against bad decision making. If we have collaboration, we have more input, all those things. So I think that was good. And then we're going to get really, really practical this week on some when and some what opportunities for collaboration. So do you have any when to start off with?
Man, my first when thought is I just want to give everybody the freedom who's listening and getting a little antsy, just like Howie is when it comes to collaboration. There is perfect times when it's okay to not collaborate. So I'm hoping that in this, we're going to hit that home, because not every circumstance requires you to collaborate. It's perfectly fine in certain circumstances to just go. And so I think I needed to start there, because I know part of my nature is to just go. And sometimes it's okay. A general doesn't need to ask permission to go to the other side, when everything's falling apart around him. Sometimes somebody just has to go. And I don't need to go check with him.
I mean, think about the overhead of Congress, right? The democratic process, for example, is a big mess. But, of course, it's very valuable because you get a lot of input. You can really test the strengths and weaknesses of your arguments and your ideas, because you have people that will absolutely be happy to call you out on your, when your stuff is not squared away, right? And so collaboration is good. But yeah, there are plenty of times when you need to be, rolling up your sleeves and tackling the problem yourself as well. So yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So when's a good time to collaborate? I would say there should be built-in collaboration at certain parts of any project. You should always have a certain point to where you're getting some kind of a blind spot check feedback check. And so I know that we were talking about earlier, sometimes you just got to build it in. Maybe I'm working on a project solo, but I need to build it in. I need to build in maybe once a week, drop in where I'm at, where I've gone, what I've done. Still good? Okay.
Love that so much. Guys, it's kind of like, you know, if you're going to spend time with your children, okay, or if you're going to spend time working out, or if you're going to spend time reading, or whatever is important in a personal setting, people always say you have to calendar that, right? And I'm convicted in 2021 to do more of that calendaring. You know, last night I read 4 pages at 1 o'clock in the morning when I finally made it to bed. I read 4 pages in my book because that is really important. It's important for me to feed myself, even though it's only 4 pages. And I hope that'll grow. And of course, I'll get to bed earlier when my life is not quite as crazy as it was last night. But yeah, calendaring that. So I like what Beastmode is saying is that some level of collaboration probably is available in most of the projects that you're working on or business initiatives, but you want to build in that, calendar that in your process. Just book 15 minutes. And by the way, a couple of opportunities, okay? If your initiative will affect another department, you should probably collaborate. I'll give you an example. In my last company, Salesforce CRM had not been updated in many, many years. And my team wanted to make some improvements in the user interface and simplify the layout. Because one of the things about CRM is there's a lot of things that your layout can look like, but also too much can be overload. So think about your user experience in all your software and all your business tools, and make sure that they are not overloading, but the tools are serving the users, not the users serving the tools. But I wanted to get this done, but it affected our Germany people and it affected other groups as well. And so what I did was I had a meeting and I collaborated with that team and I showed them what I was talking about and I documented it in the email as well of what the new screens would look like. And listen, I had to negotiate. I didn't get everything I wanted. And that's part of the tax of democracy and collaboration is you don't get everything that you want, but vastly improve Salesforce CRM because of that. And what it was, there's a couple different phases that we went through, but it was changing the sales stages to match what our new sales process had evolved to become, had improved to become. And so now our sales stages match what we were doing day to day instead of having this old, dated, worthless, weird sales stages that were the default, right? And so that was a great opportunity. But see, my work, my business idea was going to affect Germany. So I had to have an intentional outreach to them to make sure that I brought them into that process. So that's one idea. If your work affects another department, you should collaborate with them. If not, I mean, the downside is you go change that, it affects Germany. They wake up and it's like all their stuff has changed. Like, enjoy that conversation, right? That'll go up to executive management, actually. So figure out that if your work is going to affect somebody else, you should collaborate with them. Another excuse to collaborate, another when, we talked about when, is when, if someone has done that job previously, or somebody is an expert in that area, or has, those would be good people to collaborate with. And just, a collaboration can be a 15-minute meeting. It doesn't always have to be a long situation or a long email thread. It can just be a quick chat or a screen share. Also, the people that, so the employees that have to go do the business, they ought to have an input, by the way. How many times have any one of us seen that a company made these high level changes at the corporate office? They pushed it down to employees on a local level. Employees had to eat whatever food that the executive corporate team dreamed up. And it's a real burden to them. Do you understand? I had a statement when I worked at a cybersecurity company that was this: 10% of my job is unwinding the bad decisions from executive management. Think about that. That was a management statement that I made as a team leader. 10% of my time was spent unraveling the bad decisions of corporate executive management who did not check with us on the local level before they rolled something out, they did not collaborate with us on what the consequences and the impacts would be of their policy changes. So when you're thinking about your great ideas, I'm not saying the root of it probably is great, but if it's going to affect users below you or departments beside you, you owe it to yourself and to them and to the business as a whole to have that awakening and say, okay, I need to collaborate at this time.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much. Probably everybody needs to pause, rewind for 3 or 4 minutes, and listen to Howie again, just because there's so many nuggets in there. I didn't want to stop you because you're on a roll, but collaboration, it's almost the win part of it. I know I started out by saying it's okay to not, there are times to not, but there's almost the exact opposite. Why would you not? Why would I not bring somebody in to get a second opinion? Why would I not? Especially again, as leaders, if you're a leader of any type of, leader, a manager, a supervisor, CEO, there's your entire process is collaboration. And if you're aspiring to be a supervisor, manager, CEO, your entire process is collaboration. And so again, just like Howie was talking about, the certain instances where it involves other teams or involves people below you, often it's unmentioned when it involves your client. You need to collaborate with your client. You need to bring
Wow,
them
that's
in.
good.
Is this something, do you see what we're doing? Does this
Love it.
resonate with you? Does a lot of times we want to surprise and just like drop a bomb and wow them out their socks, but it's, am I in the right, are we in the right zone? So
Smart.
so important.
Some of our so I don't know if anybody who's a product manager is on the podcast today or on the YouTube live that we're on. But if you guys are product managers, you probably are good about seeking customer feedback on product changes and ideas, but other groups may not be. Finance departments may not think to have conversations with customers about billing strategies that are better, or collections, or whatever. So if you are in a role that at any point what you do will affect a customer or touch a customer in any way, I love that idea that Beastmode gave you guys, which is, man, have a conversation with customers.
Yeah.
We
even if
love
everything's
our
going well.
Even if everything's going well. Actually, that's the best time. Absolutely. So yeah. So that's a good win opportunity for sure. And let's see here. Some other opportunities. What do you got?
Yeah. So when we've already discussed internally when you're working across departments, externally when you're dealing with your clients or anything like that, and then we obviously already talked about when you're solo, whenever you're delving into a project, and maybe it's a lone project that you've been assigned. There's still the opportunity to circle back, to have that feedback, and so I mean I think we've really covered the win.
I've got one more though.
Yeah, go.
It's feeding off what you said earlier about kind of calendaring and all that, and building it in. So you may not know what is going on in the other department that may affect you or that you may affect. And so I think I think weekly is a little heavy-handed, but having a regular scheduled cadence with other departments and with your team, and just listening and just seeing what are they working on, and then sharing your plans and just say, hey, I know what I'm doing may have an impact on you. So I want to make sure I share what I'm thinking of, because it may not have occurred to me that I should collaborate. You might have an opinion. Now, listen, there's a tax to that. I mean, I talked to you about my history of why I became a lone wolf, because people will try to block stuff or whatever. They'll have an opinion that is not very grounded, and yet they could block you. So, I mean, I get it. But I think you should try it. And I think everything's about trade-offs, right? And I think it would be better to share most of your in some way like that. And so I think calendaring a regular
Have you,
meeting, maybe it's 15-minute meeting every 2 weeks. I mean, that could be enough.
yeah. Have you ever had, I'm trying to rack my brain as I'm asking you the question. Have you ever had the opportunity to not collaborate where you chose, hey, I'm not going to collaborate on this because maybe they're going to block me. Maybe I just don't really want their feedback. I just want to go. And because I didn't collaborate, either it created more work for me on the back end because voila, I have a terrific thing. Oh, but it doesn't work across these platforms because you didn't ask us. Or great, now there's a huge problem. Yes, it looks, but we weren't there yet. Have you ever had something like that happen?
I can't name one right away, but yes, it has. I can't name a specific story, but yes, I have had that burn me that I didn't share or I didn't ask or whatever. So yeah, it can burn you, and it has burned me before for sure. It didn't burn me enough to not create that persona of a lone wolf. I got away with it enough,
Yeah.
but there were times, yeah.
I know for me in sales, um, I mean, back, 5-10 years or so, where it's not, it comes across in collaboration in my mind where maybe I didn't double check something. And so I'm trying to land a deal because that's what I value, and I'm working something out, but I didn't go double check. Can we actually do this? If I upsell here, does it actually work? How's that going to work on the back end when service or ops is trying to deliver what I just sold? And it's something where it's quick, where you pop across the cubicle or you type a quick email. Hey, if I sell this, are we good to go? But oftentimes we're just so hyper focused on the end result that quick collaboration is the value in it. It's very powerful.
Yeah, it's not like you have to take every feedback you get. I mean, that would be insanity. I mean, you're closest to the situation. If you want to go work on a business project, you need to kind of have a final say. So it's not like we're saying when you collaborate, you have to give all your decisions to someone else, right? Democracy is not very efficient, but it's a good source of input for sure. And if it's about to go affect another department or somebody below you, there's a certain amount of protection that's built into that if you collaborate. But yeah, a lot of times the collaboration, people will appreciate it. I think if you're not going to take their feedback, there are times you should probably tell them. Is it every time? I mean, it's like they just shared for 5 minutes on their concerns.
Yeah.
And I think that if you've taken the time, if they find out later that you did it anyway, it could burn you too. So, you may just have to be upfront and just say, appreciate the feedback. I don't think that's enough of a reason to not do it, but I will keep an eye out for that for sure. And I really appreciate you sharing, being willing to share so that we know there's that risk. You know what I mean? So I think a little bit of that honesty.
I think and I think the positive side of that is there's an ability to innovate. If I'm in here and I'm on the sales front line with a customer, wanting to meet their needs, wanting to stretch, not just the deal, but stretch the capacity. And I'm going to ops and I'm saying, hey, client needs this. Can we do this? It's giving that ability to create and to be innovative and to push the limits. But it wouldn't happen if I didn't collaborate. If I dulled it down or dummied the deal down to where it was safe and comfortable, maybe I do still get the deal, but I missed the opportunity because maybe I find out a new product, new service, something that we hadn't done, that we do have capabilities. Now you market that across everybody. I mean, if you're the one who leads that collaboration, who asks that question, who pushes on that door, obviously you're going to get that sale and that deal, but there's a lot more coming. So
it's good.
There's a positive risk.
Yeah, I like that. So when people bring you a problem, via your collaboration that you've initiated, it does allow for innovation because you may want to still do the thing, but now you may tweak it because of the feedback. So it's not that you're going to stop doing it or not go through with the business initiative, but you're going to incorporate the risk and you're going to make sure that you build a process around that risk, or you'll be very wide open, eyes wide open to that risk. So think
Yeah,
about it. What if that person from marketing who you were afraid was going to kibosh your idea? What if they have a really good point? I'll give you. You want an example?
I do. Yeah.
So in my
Yeah.
last
Let's
company,
hear it.
we were doing a bunch of emails in my last company, and we we got added to a spam list. And my marketing person found out about it because we started having an unnatural amount of emails bounce and not be delivered because we got added to a spam list because we were
Yeah.
a little too aggressive on inviting people to webinars or something, whatever it was. And so through that process, it was painful and it was embarrassing. But we found out how to get off the spam list. We found out where where you can go to check and see if you're on a spam list. And we also worked on different behaviors to make sure that we didn't, you know, have that happen again. And so it was painful, but that collaboration, uh, made it, it kind of it did put a little bit of a governor on our activity as salespeople. We had to chill a little bit on our email volume around webinar invitations or whatever it was we were doing. But also it meant that our risk went down because we didn't want to, no one wants to be on the spam list and have all your emails blocked from Google. I mean, my word, what a devastating thing that is to your business. And so that was a really tiny bit embarrassing and definitely a little bit worrisome day for me. We got past it and we just made some guidelines that would help us avoid that in the future. And then all was well. Um, so I would say the collaboration was really positive, even though it was a little bit painful at first.
You know, uh, I think by us talking about the win, which if you haven't really got the nitty gritty of what we said, when to collaborate, it's all the time. Because when I send an email to check with service, can you do this? That's collaboration. When I check with frontline ops, hey, does this sound feasible? That's collaboration. And so maybe sometimes we get overwhelmed with collaboration, meaning somebody's got to sit across from my desk. They got to get all in my business. No, sometimes that is collaboration. Sometimes we do got to get down deep and we got to have those. But sometimes collaboration is just picking up a phone, sending a quick email, sending a text, popping over the cubicle. And so at the end of the day, we all need to collaborate. We need to collaborate all the time.
Yeah, and I think there's lean collaboration. I mean, most of you guys have Microsoft Teams, or you've got Slack, or you've got whatever chat you guys use at work. Most people have a work chat, right? So instead of sending a long email, or instead of scheduling a call, you could just work chat them and say, "Hey, can I run this idea by you?
Yeah.
We're thinking about doing this, blah blah blah. Can you see any downsides, or do you have any ideas?" And I think that as people see you asking for help, asking questions, reaching out, that kind of thing, it develops some good relationship opportunities, some trust opportunities. And also, what's fun about that too is they're kind of part of your success, meaning they kind of want to see that work. If they gave you feedback, they kind of want to they're a little bit for you, if that makes sense. Because
Yeah,
you
I'm
did it
for you.
in, yeah, because you did it in the light instead of hiding it because you're afraid of them slowing you down or telling you no or whatever. And I'm telling you from experience because I absolutely had that issue. So, well, what do you want to
Yeah.
what else do you want to cover?
So we've covered the why, we've covered the when. By covering both of those, we really clarified the what. And so I know that part of what we were wanting to really delve down into are some good collaboration techniques. And I think we've already covered several of those. And so maybe we can just end cap this episode. Um, or you know what? I think it may be too much. So let's just push that. We'll start next week with the where to start, how to start, and some good techniques. What do you think about that?
I think that'd be great. I think it's, we have to give ourselves permission to let this topic breathe and to give it a few weeks if necessary. I am hopeful that you guys email us some ideas of, whether it be something that worked for you or a pain point or a question. on this topic around collaboration to get work done, that's Howie and Beastmode, howie&beastmode@gmail.com. Love to get your thoughts. We'll definitely incorporate those in the podcast series, how to, collaboration to get work done. So yeah, I appreciate this.
Yeah. So we look forward to picking this up here, and we'll see you guys soon.